Calling all units, calling all units. Donut Shop has a fresh dozen. Go ahead and take a 1040.
All right. Welcome back to the Donut Shop podcast here, back in the Donut Shop. And today, from the great state of Texas, I have Alexander Duncan from Texas. From California and then from Texas. We'll talk about that at length, I'm sure, during the podcast. But so welcome to the show. I wanted to say thank you very much for making the trip and from Texas now and coming over to Donut Shop Podcast. So what's going on, man?
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I love sitting down and just talking. So this is going to be great. So thank you.
Yeah, it's fun. So for anybody that doesn't know, or I'll introduce him. Alexander's a 13-year law enforcement officer. So maybe when we started talking, it was 13. Is it 14 now, kind of thing?
13.
13-year law enforcement officer in the greater California area or greater LA area. But you also live in Texas.
Yes, sir.
So you have the interesting luxury of commuting, and it sounds like quite the commute to get from Texas to Los Angeles. So what's up with that, dude?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I would take any commute to get out of California because it was just terrible. And, you know, how things were going with law enforcement and just the culture of law enforcement, especially out in LA, I saw myself going down a bad path. I wasn't happy. I was very angry, and it was causing family issues. And when we had 2 young kids, we're just like, we cannot raise our kids here. We got to figure something else out.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I need this for myself too. I need to get back to a state that, really, holds family values dear, still is big on freedom. And so Texas was like the obvious choice to us. We're like, let's go. And we made the move, and it's been great.
So, I mean, I'll question this for those of you in Texas, and I know sometimes in Florida we say it. You're not coming to Texas to California up Texas, are you?
Correct. I always make a big point, like I did not come to Texas to bring any California values. I came because of the Texas values.
Yeah, you came because of what you saw. You saw what you saw on the billboard, if they ever had a billboard that said "Come move here." I don't know if they're saying that as much anymore because of the influx, especially like post-pandemic, of people moving out of California and into Texas
and
or other states.
Yeah, and that's what I don't understand is I don't know why, especially the left, is you created your dream state in California, so stay there. Don't bring that trash over with you and ruin another state.
Yeah.
But in Texas, especially, we're seeing it kind of bad right now. There's a lot of leftists coming over, pushing this agenda, and it's been terrible. So that's another reason why I've got into politics, because I don't want to see Texas ever end up being the next California.
Yeah. Texas
is a great state, and it needs to remain what it is, because I think if Texas it was to ever fall, America goes with it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, fall to the idealism that you're talking about, like that kind of like left idealism, because Texas in its own, in its amazing history of, being basically its own country for the most part. And it's such a large land area and really has an idealism of its own, don't mess with Texas, all that kind of stuff. It has its own thing. And so if you were to see it change in many places, similar to like what we have in Florida, where, you've got your metropolitan areas that are going to be more Democrat based or blue, but then Florida is similar to Texas in a way of it's largely rural when you compare it. And so Texas has that, the oil fields areas, the ranching areas, the Texas, livestock, meats, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to push people to move to Texas, especially if they're going to bring their stuff, but Texas, by far, nicest people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
Like right away when we moved in there, like you actually have connections with your neighbors, with the church. Like it's just been great. Like the best people I've ever met.
Yeah. So, and that's in Texas being so broad and has many, several large cities and stuff. You're in like the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas. And so that's probably the most metropolitan or largest area that kind of, or city-wise, that like grows out into the suburbs compared to a place like Austin or Houston, San Antonio,
Yeah.
Some of those other ones. So Texas, man. So when did you guys move to Texas or make that move?
Beginning of 24.
Okay. So just over a year ago.
Yeah, it's been the best decision we've ever made in our life.
Yeah.
Like the best by far.
And so explain to us, because I know somebody's already watching and asking, how the heck do I understand living outside the county, but how do you live several states away and commute back to the LA area?
Yeah, it was interesting when I first started doing it. So I was kind of trying to make my schedule work where I'd work 2 weeks straight, come back for 2 weeks, and do that off and on. And it was working, but ultimately I knew that wasn't going to be the game plan forever. And then unfortunately I got injured, back and neck issues, so I'm on my way out, which is a blessing because I wanted to close that chapter of my life and focus on politics and faith. So it all worked out in the end.
Yeah. So, and you kind of, and for some of us, and we were talking about it in the car ride over here, that, law enforcement in general doesn't have to be a career mentality. A lot of times we look at it because of that pension, that carrot that's dangled at the end of the stick, at the end of the career, to do that. But if you do things right, or you make other decisions in life, or you sometimes invest correctly, or you have other side jobs that you can work. The biggest thing is, for most of us, is going to be our family and our health and our livelihood. And especially if you have an injury that affects your job, law enforcement, we never know. At the drop of a hat, it could be an all out knockdown, drag out fight, right?
Yeah. And that's what I would like to tell anyone that wants to get into law enforcement. Don't make it your life. I made it my life for a long time, and it led to bad things for me. Mm-hmm. So I actually heard a pastor talking about, you set up different kingdoms in your life, right? You got your kingdom of your family, this and that, but there's only one kingdom you should stay focused on. It's his kingdom. Okay. And if you started looking at life like that, these jobs come and go, but work on your faith, protect and support your family. That's the most important. And it took me a long time to really figure that out. So I just don't want to see anyone else go down that path. So if you go into law enforcement, it's a great job. You do great things. But just remember, your family and your faith is more important than the job at the end of the day.
Right. Those are all things, that are that have to always be there for you, and they have to be strong. Law enforcement, you have a law enforcement family, you have a career that can be strong, but when it's gone, it's gone, or it can be taken away from you at a moment's notice. We see a lot of stuff in the media about officers, getting in trouble for stuff that they were basically told to do, or that were part of their policy and procedure, and then their careers get taken away from them. But your family is there, your faith is there, your life is there. That stuff has to be strong, because if that all can't be strong to support you, then when this stuff gets taken away, what have you got left? And I think that's kind of where the pastor's talking about kingdoms and stuff, and focusing on it. If we praise too much or focus too much on a kingdom that's not part of, or that can't be there, it's a false kingdom, then
Correct.
You're going to end up in trouble. And I mean, I'm not an overly religious person, but I definitely understand the ideals of what faith is teaching us, and what, the Bible and everything. I believe in those things in my own right,
yes.
Or in my own self. So yeah, it's awesome. And it's a thing that a lot of us, and I'll pat our network, our counterculture network, on the back, because that's a lot of what we try to put forward, like these support systems that are in place, that are your family, that are your friends. That's where your strength really needs to be. It can't, focus on the job, do a good job, be safe, learn everything you can, practice as much as you can. I keep saying safe, be as safe as possible, but your family, it needs to be the top. So.
Yeah, it's actually funny, because I want to say I was truly saved 2 years ago, and Jesus changed my life completely. And I was always one of those people, I believed in God. It was no question, I believe in God, but I'm gonna live my life how I want to.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until 2 years ago where I'm like, wow, no, I've been living a selfish life. If I need, I need to create a relationship with God, and that's changed everything for me. So I always tell people, Jesus changed my life. You could change your life too. Even just pick up a Bible, read a few things here and there. It's gonna, those small seeds will make a difference eventually.
Yeah.
But a couple years ago, I remember a chief telling me, and it just blew my mind, because this guy was all about leadership. Everything, read these leadership books, go to these leadership classes. And I'm like, okay, this guy's really big on leadership. Like, this is going to be good for the department. And I was going through some personal issues, and I talked to the chief about it. And he tells me, he's like, family, friends, they come and go. Work is always going to be here for you. So my suggestion is you put more time into being here, pick up other assignments. This place is always here for you. I'm like, that kind of like did me. And I was like, okay, I need to get out of this job. Like, this is not my life.
Yeah.
Like, this is the advice you're given. This is not leadership. This goes against everything these books tell you.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
Thank you very much for that little nugget. Wow. I can't believe somebody would be so brainwashed into that mentality to say something like that finite or that specific, that this job is always going to be here for you. And we see more and more in today's day and age that, a lot of times the job sometimes comes after you, just for doing the job that you were trained to do, or that you were led to believe that you were supposed to be doing.
Well, the job especially comes after people that are actually wanting to do the job. So like, I was very active on patrol. Like, I like to go make arrests. I like to get bad guys off the street. I'm like, that's what being a police officer is all about. But I found myself getting into more trouble because I was getting involved in more incidents than the guy that sat there and did nothing. It was just, would just go around and talk to people and not do anything. So I'm like, this guy's not making any arrests, not doing anything for the community, but you're praising him and you're trying to find anything you can on me, because I created more work for supervisors in the chain of command because they have to review these pursuits and uses of force.
Yeah.
So I'm like, is it worth it at the end of the day if I'm doing my job and I'm gonna get punished for it?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's there's a few agencies. A buddy of mine that just came on the show that he works out of Indiana. Kenny, he kind of looks at some of us when we talk about this topic right here, where the agencies are coming after us, and he's like, man, it's just weird. He's like, my agency promotes this stuff, wants us to do this stuff, and has our back on it. Obviously wants us to do it professionally, by the letter of the law, by the letter of policy and procedure, but they support us for that. They don't support the slug that's doing nothing, that's just a presence of a police car sitting in a parking lot. And so there are agencies out there in the world,
yes.
And I'm sure in California they're few and far between. Places like Indiana, they might be more readily available. Certain parts of Florida where I'm at, yeah, they probably do exist. But a lot of us don't end up seeing that. And then, unfortunately, the guys like us that create podcasts end up just talking about the agencies that don't allow you to do it.
Yes.
So shout out to Kenny with Beyond the Barrel podcast. If you're not already following him, go give him a follow, Kenny Williams. He's a huge interdiction cop. He works
cool.
on one of those corridors between New York and Chicago where a lot of drugs and human trafficking and smuggling and stuff is going on between those large cities. He's there shutting it down. So if you're out doing that kind of stuff, watch out for Kenny.
Yeah.
But and that's what a lot of people are still trying to get into the job to do, but aren't. But then we were talking about before that there's people that just aren't getting into the job to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think especially after 2020, I mean, across the country we saw law enforcement numbers decline. No one wanted to do the job anymore. If you had a significant amount of time on, you were leaving because it just wasn't worth it anymore. And now, especially with my agency, what we're seeing come in is people that truly don't want to do the job, but they're like, hey, the pay is good, benefits, I'll stick it out. And it's like, that, you don't want those people.
Right.
You want people that they want to support, they want to help the community. And being a police officer, you're going to have to make arrests and go after bad people and keep them out.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got to understand that at some point you're going to have to get violent with somebody, that you are going to have to touch somebody, that you're going to have to mix it up, And
I got a great example of that.
Go for it. Tell me. Yeah.
So I was a training officer for 7 years.
Okay.
I get a brand new guy. He was a cadet. So I'm like, okay, he's been around law enforcement. He should get it, right?
Yeah.
And we stopped some. I think he committed a theft or something. Nothing big, but of course, typical walking away, won't stop when we're giving the commands. I'm like, hey, you need to stop this guy. Go grab him, stop him. So he grabs him, and the guy turns and punches him. Doesn't do anything. He just keeps holding on his arm, trying to drag him down. So then I have to get involved. I end up taking this guy down, kneeing him in the face, punching him, finally get him in custody. And I just start ripping into this guy. I'm like, what are you doing? This guy punched you in the face. Like, he would want to kill you if he could.
Yeah.
And you didn't know what to do. And he just couldn't take the violent aspect of it. I'm like, there's got to be a time and place you have to be violent.
Yeah.
It's you just have to be.
Well, and they probably don't realize that you have to be a computer about this stuff. You have to understand, what your legalities are. Like when your training officer says, "Hey, go get him." Is it, "Hey, go get him" just because he's not listening to us, or is it, "Hey, go get him" because we have probable cause, because the victim identified? You've got to start computing all that stuff. And maybe we're not explaining that part in the academy to these guys, that okay, here's the laws, but we're not telling them, like, your brain needs to understand and be able to compute how to apply those laws in a real life situation, because that's a real life situation. That guy didn't want to comply. He didn't want to come back. Probably figured the cops are going to go, it's not worth our time. It's too hot. And I'm going to walk away. But when presented with that, like, hey, I need to impress my FTO. I need to get my marks so that I can get off FTO. I need to do what's told. And maybe this is what the job is. And then people are coming in, and I mean, I'm sure they were in there with my generation as well, that they just figure because this uniform is an aura, it presents something, you have to listen to me. Now, 20 years ago when I started, it probably worked better. That aura may have helped as a gravitational pull to listen to me, but it doesn't work anymore.
Not anymore.
Now, and for many years it hasn't worked. It just works because maybe they see that yellow taser, and maybe they've been tased before and they don't want to ride the lightning. But it's the other thing is just your physical presence.
Yeah. I mean, you used to see it, I want to say with like, the OGs, when you're dealing with these like gangsters and stuff, they had that respect still for law enforcement. They know if they crossed a certain line, they got what was coming to them.
Yeah.
And there was like, it was unsaid. We just knew what sides we're on, and we knew what would happen if it went that way. But this new generation, especially this new generation of criminals, there is no respect.
Yeah.
They think they could do whatever they want, get away, especially in California, because half the time there's no consequences for any of these crimes.
Yeah.
So
and then they've learned through social media that they've seen that if they just inundate you with phrases like, "I want to speak to your supervisor. I want to speak to your supervisor. Get me your supervisor. I need a sergeant. I need a," like that's a thing, like that there's actually things. And like I had one of my sergeants come over the radio, and I made sure to turn my radio up nice and loud when he came on, and he says, "I have the utmost confidence that my officers on scene are handling the case properly. I'm not coming out." And so like the woman heard that on the thing, and then we kind of just continued with our explanation. Dude, it was a freaking Department of Children and Families call. Like all it was we were just checking in on her son because her son had an issue. He was he was autistic, and he had a meltdown in a store, and we weren't there investigating a real crime.
Yes.
And she was just losing her shit, and she just wanted a supervisor on scene. It's like, dude, seriously? Like, so but yeah, these guys, they've all watched the social media and stuff like that. And then you've got the officers who have also watched the social media and, are afraid of being on social media due to something like that. And a prior guest, the director of Florida Highway Patrol, came on, and this goes along the lines of just what he said with traffic stops. Every time we turn off our lights and let someone run away from us on a violation, the cancer grows. And and his thing that he was banging the drum for was that Florida Highway Patrol was beginning this mantra of like pitting people and putting them into walls if you're committing crimes and all that kind of stuff. And the same thing goes for the shoplifter. We let them leave on shoplifting and walk away from us when we said, "Hey, stop, I want to talk to you," and we let them walk away. That cancer grows, and it's been growing for a long time.
Exactly. And that's what people don't get. Especially pursuits are always like a huge topic, because yes, a lot do end in crashes. People die as a result of them. Mm-hmm. But you can't let people just go away unpunished. Mm-hmm. If they're running, they're usually running for a reason separate from the crime. Yeah. Especially if it's a low-level crime and they're taking off, there's probably something else in that car.
Yeah.
And yeah, we need to stop these people. If you just tell people like, "Hey, we don't pursue," why wouldn't I run then?
Yeah.
It's like, if you know that that agency is not going to pursue you, it's like, I'm going to take off every time because I'm going to get away and I know nothing's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just like Director Kerner said, you know, the cancer grows and it does with everything else. And California is leading the way in that mentality with, you know, the prosecution levels. And that's when you're seeing stuff like Walgreens and smaller stores and CVS, or, you know, other stuff like that, moving out of some of the city areas.
They're all closing up. Everything's behind glass. It's just it's a mess.
Would it take, is that one of the reasons to leave? It takes you like, because like the thing about Walgreens and CVS is that it's a corner store that has your stuff. You park, you're in and out. Usually you're paying $1 or $2 more than you would pay at your full-blown grocery store, but it's a quick service convenience store.
Yes.
And with having to push a button to get Cheetos or something like that, to get an associate to come and unlock a case to get a bag of chips or something like that out, where's the convenience? It's no longer a convenience store, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And you never know who you're going to, especially in LA, like who are you going to run into in these stores?
Oh,
so it'd be
yeah.
the guy going, you know, with his bag, just loading it up so he could walk out and to go sell it, you know, down on Skid Row so he could buy some more
You're
drugs.
just like, dude, I wanted those Cheetos. Can you just at least give me one bag? Is it now that you just dumped an entire shelf of Cheetos into your duffel bag?
And then when we do stop these people, they're like, oh, why are you harassing him? Because he just stole, like, you know, CVS prices. He has $500 worth of stuff in this bag. So, I mean, we've stopped people that have thousands of dollars worth of stuff that they just walked out with.
It's insane. I mean, it's like Supermarket Sweep, the old TV show. Like these guys will go right to the cosmetic aisle and they're knocking $13, you know, lipsticks or whatever. Like they're knocking 50 of them in there, and that thing racks up just like you would be throwing turkeys into your shopping cart in Supermarket Sweep to get the bonus points. And so it's crazy what it racks up to be. And even in Florida, it used to be $300 was the threshold, and now they've bumped it up to $7 something. You know, similar to like where California is.
Yeah, we're at $9.50.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, and people don't realize. So, I want to say it was 7 or 8 years ago, Prop 47 decriminalizing a bunch of this stuff. So basically, they made all hard drugs misdemeanors. So meth, heroin, fentanyl, everything misdemeanor.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, LA doesn't prosecute misdemeanors, essentially.
Yeah.
It just goes nowhere. But what happens is these people that truly need help, these addicts, because that's who's mostly stealing stuff from CVS and everything. They're stealing what they can so they could go sell it and get more drugs.
Yeah.
But before, when it was a felony, you would lock somebody up for a little bit of meth. They would spend 3 months in county jail, be clean usually, get out, and try to stay clean. And
It's the head start that they may need.
yeah, and the funny thing is, I became good friends with a guy from church that really helped me out. He was a 27-year addict, in and out of prison, found God, changed his life, great friends to this day. And he was telling me, he's like, that is the worst thing California ever did. Because he's like, I'd get clean for a few minutes, I'd try to stay clean. He's like, you know, obviously I'd relapse. He's like, but at least I had an opportunity, a shot. He's like, now you just keep feeding them.
Yeah.
And then other crime goes up. These burglaries go up. These shopliftings go up. And it's just a never-ending cycle, and they don't get people help that actually need help.
And that's a crazy thing that you know, they want to decriminalize the drugs and you know, the street drugs and stuff like that and make it a problem. But exactly to your point, the drugs are the root of other crimes, you know, not just the shoplifting and stuff. You know, you have your robberies, you have your burglaries, you're breaking and enterings into businesses and homes so that they can steal this stuff.
Exactly.
You know, and it's not victimless. It's not, oh, it's against the store, they've got insurance and stuff. So the insurance rates go up, and then it's harder for other small businesses to create a business because now their insurance rates are ridiculous.
And then that cost gets put onto us at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I cannot stand that term, victimless. No, yeah, just because there's not a victim sitting right across from you, it all, you know, there's a victim in the end, no matter what. The rising costs, it goes back on the consumers. You know,
it's not just free money. We talked about this in the car ride as well. It's not like he drove from Texas and I drove him, but we had a bit of a conversation. You know, we talked about victimless crime and how fraud and how crime a lot of times on the street crime level has switched to fraud. And people may look at it and go, oh, well, you know, like just like me, like I get a bad charge on my credit card and I just file it. I don't even call the police department like some people do and ask for police reports, and a full blown investigation needs to be done. But in my credit card company takes care of it usually. But it's like that bad guy got the money. That bad guy got the reward for doing something, and then the credit card company, although we could talk about this probably all day, the fees and the money and everything like that. Granted, be smart with your money. Don't pay your credit cards any money. Don't give them any don't incur interest. I've gone probably 4 or 5 years without paying a dime to these credit card companies, except I just got the Venture X and I paid the $350 or whatever for my membership fee. But they're never going to get in. I keep saying insurance. They're never going to get interest from me. I always pay my bill, pay that stuff down. Don't go into credit card debt. I spent many years with $20,000 in credit card debt that was hundreds of dollars a month in fees that went to these credit card companies. Don't give them any money. Reap all the rewards and enjoy it.
Banks and credit cards are always going to get their money in the long run.
Yeah.
Just because they give you your money back, they're still making it back somehow.
Yeah, somehow they're going to.
But it even goes past that. Like this fraud stuff, some people get ruined and they have to spend hours on the phone trying to get their credit back. So it's like, yeah, you don't think you have a victim, but you do. Like this person's wasting hours of their day just trying to fix a problem that somebody else caused.
Totally. And then, that fraudster, I always tell people when I do these fraud cases at work to watch the movie Beekeeper with Jason Statham, just because it's based on fraud, and I won't spoil the movie, but if you've ever been a victim of fraud, that movie might make you feel a little bit better being a victim. Jason Statham takes out retribution on those fraudsters. So there's a little plug for that movie. So we'll take a quick break for a commercial, and then we'll be right back. Hey guys, I'm sure that there's many of us that are aging and we've thought about hormone replacement therapy. I visited my doctors and discussed it, and I'm still kind of on the fence and not really sure what I want to do. But now I think I've kind of found it, and I know that we could all use a boost of testosterone in our life. Well, check out the best in the game, Human Performance Team. It connects you with doctors via telehealth, and you could submit your labs that you've maybe already been done, or you can get fresh ones done. They offer a variety of services like primary care, urgent care, weight loss, and even mental health. We all know that, these jobs weigh on us and our mental health. Jump over to hptrt.com and use the code DSP for a continuous discount. Use the code DSP and get on a road to better health. Yo, what's up, everybody? I want to let you know I have a new website format. Same website, donutshoppodcast.com, but this time I'm running it through Shopify. Make it much easier to purchase items because aside from the hats that I have up there, Donut Shop Podcast, PVC hats, the blue line snapback, laser mesh, nice and clean on the inside, comfy hats. I have some other swag, t-shirts, can koozies, just some other stuff that I put up there. I'm running the website through Shopify, and so it'll make it real easy for you guys to go on and purchase some stuff and support the show. So thanks for tuning in and following the show, and don't forget, donutshoppodcast.com. Thanks. All right, cool. We're back from break, and so we glossed over it a little bit. 13 years in law enforcement, grew up in California, the LA area.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what got you into law enforcement? What kind of
So it's kind of funny, actually. My dad was a 34-year-old police officer.
Okay.
I wanted nothing to do with law enforcement growing up. I was like, I despise authority. I don't want anything.
One of those cop brats.
I don't want any part of this. Wanted to stay far away as possible. But when I got into college, my dad's like, you need to get a job. We're hiring for cadets right now. It pays pretty good. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'll try this out. So my whole plan was I want to go to medical school. I was dead set on that.
Oh.
And then I started working as a cadet, and I would go on ride-alongs weekly. And I'm like, this is pretty cool. Like, this is a cool job. You're out. You're not stuck in a building. You get to just meet people, talk to people.
Yeah.
And
the job's different every day.
Yes, different every day. And it was fun. Like, being a police officer is fun, especially, 10, 12, 13, 15 years ago when you could, I think, work still as like the older generation did. It was a lot of fun. So when I was seeing that on ride-alongs, I'm like, hey, you know what? maybe I give this a shot. So literally the day I graduated from college, I started the police academy the next day.
Oh, wow.
So I went right into it. It was pretty cool because I got to work with my dad for the last 4 years of his career. So that was fun. We're like working patrol, and he was a motor cop for 29 of his 34 years. So we were always running into each other on calls and everything. So it was fun, and I enjoyed that aspect of it.
So what's the cadet thing? What is that like? If you're, because you were in college, you were a college student, full-time college student.
Yes.
What's the cadet thing for that agency?
So like agencies have different names for it. Like explorers are usually non-paid. It's basically like a paid explorer program.
Oh, okay.
But my responsibility was I worked the front desk for most of the time I did it. So I just write basic crime reports for people coming in, point them off to the direction they need to go.
Oh, okay. So like in Florida, we have service aides, like public service aides.
Yeah, community service officers, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Kind of all in one.
Okay, yeah, because that's usually who works our front desk, and then and then we have like part-time ones that help out at the arena with like traffic direction or running the pickle, as we call it, for the light control box, or like putting out cones, odd jobs. So you're kind of support. You're support staff for the police department, for the police officers. Exactly. But then you also got to do ride-alongs and in uniform.
Yes.
And then learn about the police department.
Yeah, so you get a good exposure to everything, and that's what sold me on it. Because at first I was like, no way, I want nothing to do with this. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. You get to drive your own car around, kind of dictate your day.
Yeah. Sorry, I heard
I heard that too.
I guess a cappuccino getting frothed, and I thought, because there's a road right out here too, and I thought there was like a road, like a car spinning out or something, but it was the cappuccino frother here in the donut shop. Okay, so cool. So, and how long? So you did that like 4 years?
4 years. Yeah, 4 years. The entire time I was in college, and then just straight into the police academy after that.
Interesting way of doing it to get your experience, because we talk about experience a lot and how we don't want our officers being like fresh out of high school or whatever. I don't want to say fresh out of college, because I was pretty much a year out of college when I became a police officer. But I also use like because I've been a police explorer advisor, and that's, for anybody that doesn't understand, that's usually like 15 years old to 21. You learn about law enforcement, you help out in community events, and it's like the first stepping stone for some people into law enforcement. You don't have to start there, but I look at it as almost like baseball. You've got your levels of baseball before you hit the major leagues, police officer being major leagues. And so you're going to be in like AAA ball, that kind of thing. And so the explorers work their way up and sometimes become community service aides or cadets.
Yeah, it's funny talking about like the life experience part, because I started at 21 and I was like, I have experience. I have life experience. I went to college. And then I'm showing up at like a domestic violence call with like 50-year-olds, and I'm 21 years old telling a 50-year-old man, like, you need to change the way you're acting. Like, this is not okay. And he's looking at me like, how old are you?
Yeah.
And I'm like, now when I think back about it, I'm like, yeah, if a 21-year-old kid came up to me and was like, you're going to do this, that, you're going to jail right now, I'd kind of be like, okay.
I think, and I completely remember those comments made to me when I was 23, 24, 25. I mean, I probably still get that as a 42-year-old, because people are like, you're 42, you've got 20 years on, get out of here. Like, I look young. And I think the biggest thing with that is being humble enough and understanding the situation you're in, understanding the role of what you've been called there to do, and how to communicate with people. And that's what sometimes a 21-year-old doesn't understand. And I did understand that as a 23-year-old, that yes, I'm 23. Yes, I'm talking to someone who's been married for 50 years, that has kids that are older than me or whatever, and just empathizing with people, talking to them, having a heart, but also knowing that if a law was broken, you have a job to do, and this is how to do it. And sometimes there's no friggin' negotiation. Yeah. You're going to jail, dude. I don't care, X, Y, and Z.
I think you nailed it with communication.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the academy a little bit before. I think that's where these academies kind of need to fix themselves, is with critical thinking and communication.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these guys, they come right out of the academy, and it's like, it's black and white.
Yeah.
I talk to people like almost like robotic. And it's like, hey, you're not in the academy anymore. You need to just be a normal person and communicate normally to these people, or they're not going to get it.
Yeah.
Like you're coming off as like a stoic robot, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah, you can't be, Demolition Man, like talking to them in this like weird language that it's a perfect world. Everybody, and we talk about that sometimes with, depending on where you work, if you work in a more affluent area or if you work in the ghetto or in, who you're dealing with. Sometimes you need to change the pitch or change the
Yes.
tone or sometimes even change the language to get somebody to understand, yeah, you're sitting there in that uniform. They're going to look at you. They're going to know you're a cop. They're going to know that you may have arrested a family member in the past, but sometimes you need to communicate a little bit better with them. And I've always banged the drum for better communication, either in home life or at work or whatever. A big reason why we have a lot of these problems is communication.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's where podcasts come in, and podcasts are praised a lot because of the long format communication where people can have actual conversations.
Yes.
And they're not just clipped up 7-second. You have 7 seconds to talk. I just listened to the Joe Rogan episode with Bernie Sanders, and he was talking about it, where he goes on the news and they're like, all right, da, 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 and they're talk. And they're like, all right, to Bernie, you have 7 seconds to fill.
Yes.
And he's like, how am I going to talk? And not that I agree with Bernie Sanders, but he's
Yeah.
a elder statesman in the world, and he's got a lot of experience in
Well,
life.
the podcasts really show like a different side of people too. President Trump nailed it with going on all those podcasts
Yeah.
because you saw like the real side of him. Like he's just a real guy.
Yeah.
He's not a politician. He's not going to give you just these polished answers you want to hear.
Yeah.
And people want to see more of that. They want real.
Yeah.
And that's what podcasts have really been able to do, is show the real sides of the people for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, some people go on like, Kamala and stuff and just.
I just saw, like, we're recording this, what is it, 27th of June. I just saw come out on Instagram the actual, because on the Rogan podcast, he really went into Bernie Sanders towards the end of it about Trump's lawsuits, because Bernie was talking about lawsuits against the media and how we can't have that, freedom of the press, you can't sue, da 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 da. But then Rogan actually understands what's going on with these lawsuits, and he goes, yeah, but his lawsuit is against CBS because they doctored Kamala Harris's interview. And so I guess the judgment is just finally coming out on that. And it's a poignant time to have that podcast released and then the judgment coming out. And then they show what the actual edits were and what Kamala's statement was versus what actually got aired as an answer to that statement. And it's like, damn, dude, like that's a hugely different answer to the statement versus, so it's like, and I can tell you, I'm not editing these podcasts. Like I do a cut where it says, where I say, hey, I'm going to do a commercial break. And then I do a cut at the end to trim off any me walking up to the cameras to hit the end. But other than that, I'm not doing that, once in a while, because yes, we have a job sometimes that has policies that we can't say something about a specific thing. And so, I slipped up and I maybe mentioned my agency's name or something like that. I may need to scrub that, but I by no means am taking what you're saying and going, if you want to see the full thing, go to YouTube. It's all there.
And that's why people don't trust mainstream media anymore. It's just turned into leftist propaganda. And that's why we've seen a switch to people are going to podcasts, they're going to X for their news.
Independent journalists on Substack.
They can't stand this. It's all edited to make one side look good.
Yeah.
And people are just fed up with it.
Yeah, and it's skewed. And I mean, definitely, you could probably read our political leanings by the conversations we've had so far. But it is what it is. You're going to have that, and you have to understand that. And when people are, forced by way of over-the-air content that they get when they turn their TV on, like even if you don't pay for cable, and so you're not watching CNNs of the world, you're provided with through the federal government's ability to give you over-the-air digital content to an antenna into your TV. Like that's your news. It's not public broadcasting, but it's, for the most part, you would hope that it's got a broad stroke of everything. And if they're forcing you a certain mentality or editing some sort of content so that you can't make an informed decision on something, that's when it gets scary. And that's when it's like, is it really freedom of the press?
Yeah, and that's where people really need to research things for themselves.
Yeah.
Like, just because you hear it on TV now doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
Like, so do your own research with anything.
Yeah.
Because, I hear stuff sometimes, from the left, I'm like, is that true? Or even from the right, I'm like, I don't know if that's true. And then you look into it, you're like, yeah, they kind of misspoke on that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people just don't take that time.
They take it as word or as the gospel.
Yes.
And so a lot of times I love going to the comments, and it's like, I know the comments are going to be super crazy on both sides, one way or the other. But as we know, as police officers, the answer is really somewhere that lies along the middle of that. Exactly. And so I'll read some statements that people have made in there and go, all right, that's a clue. Let me now go research that information that this person put in this comment, arguing it. I'm going to go research that. Oh, look at that. Okay. All right. That's interesting. And then now I'm going to try and find a contrary article about that. So it takes a little bit of time, or it takes a lot of time sometimes. And people don't necessarily want to take that time, or they don't have to,
yes.
or we don't have that attention span.
Attention span's huge. I mean, we've seen it, like this generation right now that's growing up with social media, they have no attention span. They get those quick hits of dopamine from scrolling and they're on to the next thing, versus, growing up without it. You were enthralled when you would see something new. It was like eye-opening. Yeah. Now it's like everyone's desensitized. They've seen it online already. Yeah, they've already skip over it.
Seen the trailer to the movie. They've seen the full trailer, so now they almost don't even need to see the entire movie. All that kind of stuff. And it's a tough time, and we really have to. And even with these podcasts, like I'm a cop, he's a cop, and we're talking about law enforcement things, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's always correct. Some of these things may be based upon our opinions, but these are opinions of people with 13 years, 20 years of experience dealing in law enforcement that are dealing, you're in the state of California, I'm in the state of Florida, some polar opposites, but also some great similarities in law enforcement and how it works. And a lot of these podcasts and these panels that we get on and we discuss things, break down videos and stuff, doesn't necessarily mean that it's 100% accurate, that it's the best thing, but we're giving you from a different point of view than maybe what you're seeing on Instagram, somebody breaking it down, or on the news, and they're not getting the full scope. And I was a public information officer, so I dealt with the interviews about a situation, but there was a lot that we couldn't talk about as a public information officer because the subject is still hot. There's still an investigation that needs to be completed. There's still a criminal trial that may need to go out. So if we put every ounce of the information out ahead of time, and maybe we're still looking for the bad guy or still looking for a co-conspirator, we can't give you all the information.
Exactly.
So,
and I think, like, talking in that general realm, one of the greatest things LAPD ever did was when I think they were the first agency to start releasing these body cam videos of police shootings. Yeah. And they do it within 30 days of the shooting. But it dropped that level of like anger and aggression towards police almost like instantly, because like, here's the video, this is what happened. Yeah. And when people saw that, like, okay, well, that's not what I was hearing from the community. And
that's the word that people hear a lot, transparency. And my agency came to me when LA or that greater LA area started putting out those videos like that. The spokesperson coming up, introducing the chief, and they're all in-house. It's not a podium with the news there. They're creating their own content.
Yes.
But they're owning up to it. They're saying, this is what happened. Here's the 911 call. And they were probably pioneers in that, probably because they dealt with some of the highest level, or at least most notoriety of protests that turned into riots. And a lot of people are doing that. A lot of agencies are doing that. And my question to my agency was, okay, so you're showing me one from LA that was a good shoot. Are we gonna put this same stuff out when we have a bad shoot or we have a questionable shoot? Are you prepared? And so they think that like, oh, we're just gonna throw all this sunshine and roses and flowers and candy on social media and not be you can't be scared to put out the bad stuff like when you screw up. And
it just takes owning it.
Yeah.
If you just own it, it will stop a lot of that, the hate and anger that comes from it.
Yeah.
It's when you try to cover it up and try to act like, something bad didn't happen. Well, it's like, no, clearly it did. If you would just come out and say, yes, we screwed up, it deflates a lot of what they have going.
Yeah. And then you've got to do a lot of explaining because as we know with case law and all kinds of stuff, there's nuance to everything. And so I sit there and sometimes I'll feel excited to get into a debate on Instagram or something like that, where somebody's watching a video and they're like, you didn't read him the Miranda, yes. And it's just all those kind of things. And I explained this to a guy that was in the backseat of my car the other day. I was just transporting for detectives and he's like, they never read me their rights. I was like, did they ask you anything about the crime? Because it sounds like they pretty much had you dead to rights on video, stealing a package from somebody's front porch. I'm like, I don't think that they felt like they needed to ask you any questions. Did they ask you? No, they didn't ask me anything. They just asked me my name. I'm like, okay. And then they put you in handcuffs? Yeah. I'm like, okay, they had probable cause. They put you in handcuffs. They called me, and now you're in the backseat of my car. I'm an Uber. I go, yeah. And just for my camera's sake, I'm not asking you any questions about it either. So I'm just letting you know, if you want to talk to me about it, you're talking, but I'm not asking you. I don't care. I'm your Uber driver to the jail. And so when he was done, he was, oh, thank you so much. And I was like, but I got to remind you that all this crap you see on social media where they're telling you that they need to read you your rights because they saw it on Law and Order, and every time the metal of a handcuff touches somebody's wrist, that instigates the phrase. Not true.
They think it's a get out of jail free card. Like, they didn't read me my Miranda rights. This case is going to get tossed. It's like, no, they didn't interview you. It wasn't an in custody interview. They don't have to read this to you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun. So there's a lot. So we're seeing so much of it. So in your agency, so like what's your 13-year career been about?
Patrol the entire time. Yeah.
Okay.
So I did the last 7 as a field training officer, and I loved it at first, but then it weighs on you because you're just training, turning one out after the other, and especially who we were seeing come in. And that's where I was kind of disappointed with my agency, because before there were strict standards. You had to meet the standards or we got rid of you. And now that's what's great about probation. You're at will still. Yeah. But they are so about numbers. They wanted to just keep everybody. And what happens when you keep these people that should have been gone? We see problems start to arise. It's like, we told you this person was an issue way back on training. Yeah. But you said, nope, we need them passed. We need to get them through. And I'm like, then look what you're stuck with. Yeah. So it kind of burnt me out. I was like, I'm done with this. I'm putting in all this work, and you just don't even listen to it. I'm giving you recommendations, and you're just like, yeah, we know they did all this stuff, but we really need this person out on the streets because, we need to promote another person. It's like, and that's part of this law enforcement culture with promotions is people are so set on wanting to promote. It's like, just do the job. Do the job, get the experience, because I've seen it. The worst supervisors I've had are the ones that did not do the job. Yeah. They did their 2 years, and then they bounced around from other assignments until they could promote. And then they get in those positions, they make their, way up to lieutenant and captain, and they're deciding on policy. It's like, if you would have worked patrol long enough, you would know this doesn't work. Yeah. Yeah. And I always said that too. And I worked in my specialized units with school resource officer and community resource officer and PIO stuff. So, but I always, especially during the pandemic, when pretty much everybody above the first floor of the police department was able to take a computer home and work from home and do our jobs, and don't come in today. Who was in there every day? Road patrol. Mm-hmm. Those guys were the front lines during a time when we didn't know if this thing was truly out to kill us, and we didn't know what it was. And I mean, think back, it was an amazing time. I mean, it was a terrible time, amazing time. It was such a time. Yes. But road patrol were those people out there responding to these calls. There's a little code that dispatch would put out to say if this person was COVID positive. When you get there, you're dealing with masks and gloves and PRL and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, and then you're getting sick sometimes, and then they're kicking you home for 2 weeks to tell you need to stay home and all this kind of stuff. So it was a crazy time, but those were the guys and girls that had to be there every day. Exactly. And my heart's always been with patrol. I love it. Yeah. I think that's the bedrock of police work. The backbone, the bedrock. Yeah. Being a patrol officer. And it was funny. We were going through a staffing shortage one time. So there was just overtime nonstop. And so I was picking up overtime shifts all the time.
Yeah.
Great money. I enjoyed it. But there would be days where like, I need this day off. No, you're getting force hired. I'm like, the department is full.
Yeah.
Yes, patrol is short. These are all police officers in the building.
Yeah,
Tell
yeah.
one of them to just put a uniform on and go work.
Yeah.
And just, we can't do that. I'm like, they are police officers. At the end of the day, this is
Yeah.
their main job function. Put them out to patrol and make them work.
Right.
And I just couldn't stand that. I'm like, you can mitigate all of this by just putting people back in patrol for the day.
Oh,
you don't
yeah.
need to call people in from home.
Yeah, we've got so many people, working jobs within the police department. And granted, I was in one of them. That's, they're valuable jobs. They serve their purpose. But like, what's your real role? And like Mike from Copville loves to rag on people on Instagram, for running around with no vests or belts that are all out of sorts and sometimes missing their magazines and everything for their guns. And he plays the Hall & Oates song, "You're Out of Touch," which it's correct. You become out of touch. And so when I got kicked out of the unit and sent back to the road, my saving mentality, when I want to be all down in the dumps and upset, is like, I tell people, I go, look, I just got kicked back to what I signed up to do. This was the job that I signed up to do, so, this was what I wanted to start doing, at the time, 18 years ago or whatever. So,
and honestly, like patrol, you have more freedom being a patrol officer than any other job. You don't take work home with you.
Yeah.
You finish your day, you're done. You don't have a caseload to worry about. You're not getting phone calls from other supervisors about statements you put out, anything like that.
Totally.
You just get to work, have fun, do the job, go home.
Yep. Yeah, it may be a bit more dangerous, but you can mitigate all those things with good training, with good education, and a good head on your shoulders. You can keep yourself safe through all those things. But it's great, and I tell people this on the road, like guys that I work with on the road, and then and I tell the ones that I've known that have worked the 13 years, the 17 years just on the road. They may have tried to get into other units, but they didn't get it because of whatever, sometimes politics. Yeah. And I tell them, man, I got the utmost respect for you doing it, but they'll also say, bro, it's the best kept secret in the world. This patrol schedule is great because like ours, unlike some agencies that have like a rotating schedule where like, you work like 3 on, 3 off, 4 on, 5, you got rotating weekends, all this kind of stuff. Like we have a true seniority thing. So like I work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, every other Thursday. So
that's how I was. Yep. 3 days a week. 1 week I had to work a 4th day.
Yeah.
But I was on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for years. I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
I don't have to work weekends unless I choose to.
Yeah. I feel like I get a vacation every other weekend. Basically, it's like by day 4, I'm like, dude, like, am I going back to work anytime soon? Sometimes. So it's great. It gives me opportunity to do a lot of stuff like this. But it, it is the best kept secret because you turn off the radio. I don't read my emails till Monday. My radio turns off at 5 when I go off the air, and I'm driving home, and off I go. So it's there. Guys will be like, "Oh, did you hear about that?" And unless it's like an alpha page where sometimes I'm on the text message to get an alpha page of a major incident in the city. Otherwise, I don't know what happened, and it's blissful ignorance when I walk back in. So for mentality wise, it, once in a while you get those rough days where you're just call. You don't get to run an errand. You got to hit a drive through or run into 7-Eleven to grab a roller dog or something like that because you got nothing. You got no time to sit down and eat a meal. But
it makes your day go by faster too.
Oh,
your day's over like that.
Holy moly, it is 4:00 already.
And it's funny because when you tell people you're a police officer, you could be in any position. Their mindset goes right back to you must work patrol.
Yeah.
You tell them like I'm a police officer, so they think you've been out there doing stuff. And it was funny growing up, like all these friends I had. Oh, your dad's a police officer? Yeah. Oh, has he seen any cool stuff? He's been involved in any? Well, he works the training department. He's been in there 20 years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, okay. Like.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you don't realize, like I used to do the presentations when I worked in the elementary school to talk to the kids. You ever shot anybody? No. No. But I mean, it happens, and you could have. My department has done that, but it's always, like that's the one thing that all the little kids want to know. Like, you ever shot anyone?
Yeah.
And it's like, I think the last time I took my gun out was part of, especially working in elementary school, was for block training, or something like that.
And people think all these TV shows that you get in a shootout every day. I'm like, it's rare as a police officer if you've been involved in a shooting.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very low percentage, even though they want to say, these police shootings are so,
Rampant.
across the U.S. It's like, it's not. If you looked at the actual statistical data of it, it's very low.
Yeah. So FTO, you have any crazy story of a trainee that you just bounced the heck out of it, or just couldn't cut it?
Oh man, there's this one guy, and I felt bad because he was a nice guy, and that's always where you have to take that part out of it. Like, yeah, he's a nice guy, he's trying, but he just didn't get it. And what set me over the edge is we get on a traffic stop. I could see it was like some old lady, so I wasn't even worried about it at first. And I always let my trainees walk ahead of me to kind of gauge them. And I look, and I'm like, dude, this guy doesn't have a magazine in his gun.
Oh, no.
I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, okay, I'm not really worried about this, so I'm going to let him finish up talking to her. We get back to the car. I'm like, where's the magazine of your gun?
Yeah.
He goes, I don't know. I'm like, how do you not know?
Yeah.
I'm like, did you take this home with you? No, it stayed in my locker. I'm like, okay, this story's getting weird. Like, if it's in your locker and you didn't touch it, like, somebody there is messing with you.
Yeah. And
then, so I'm telling this story around the station when we get back. So I'm like, find your department issued magazine.
Yeah.
And someone goes, this guy, that's always like funny. He comes up, he just doesn't know what's going on. He's like, yeah, I came up on an extra magazine the other day in my car. And I'm like, that's probably going to be it. So find out he had been working, because I had just gotten him that day. It was his first day with me.
Okay.
I'm like, he's been working days without a magazine in his gun.
Oh my God. So like the last time that he was in that guy or near that guy's.
In that other TO shop.
Okay.
So I'm like, man, he went days without having.
Well, it leads me to question what the other unobservant police officers that he worked with, because like I remember like we used to do that when we'd screw around with each other, obviously not on like a domestic or something like that. But, you kind of walk up, and we all carry Glocks, and you walk up and you kind of, if you can get close to somebody and they don't know, and you can kind of do the boop and like hit the mag release and just kind of,
yes,
suck that mag out with your hand and then walk away. And maybe the guy won't know until he kind of feels like, all right, I just lost a couple pounds on my right side, if you're that aware of your setup. But yeah, but that would have been, we messed with people in other ways too, but that was always a fun one. But, or like in a briefing or something, or you're like eating lunch and you steal their mag, but you give it back to them before they go. Cause God forbid we ever sent them off into a hot call or something like that. And they pull out and they've only got their chambered round in the gun, and they shoot one and they're like, oh, quick reload.
Yeah. We used to mess with moving people's cars around.
Yeah.
And one time that we're at like IHOP at like 2 a.m, we're tired, we're sitting there eating, then we get an emergency call and we go out and our car's gone. I'm like, oh no, like where is our car? And then like 2 minutes later, the car's just flying down the road. You're like, sorry, we parked it like blocks away.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man.
We had one, my buddy, they used to put a club on each other's cars. So they took the club and put it on his, because all of our Crown Vics were keyed with the same key.
Yes.
So you could just get into all of them. So they put a club in his car, and there was like 4 guys deep. They were on midnights, and they got a hot call, and everybody took off, and he gets in there and he's like, mother, God damn, I can't drive. So he's like stuck there, and then they had to come back after the other call and come get him and go, sorry. But we would stuff, there was a Shamu stuffed animal, a giant Shamu that they would stuff into the driver's seat of somebody's car. So they'd go to get in their car and they couldn't get in because it was full of a stuffed animal. There's obviously your classic ones of like baby powder in the air vents. Yes. They would do surface tension of a gallon of water on the person's seat. So they just keep pouring and letting it soak into the seat until it was like a splash-worthy surface tension.
Oh,
and then the person would get into their seat and it's just soaking wet. God,
there's some fun stuff you used to be able to get away with.
2 guys, because so you had the removable padded seat in the back of a Crown Vic. The one guy took cat food and opened it and put it underneath the seat pad and left it in there. Well, it went for days or a week or something like that, and it got rancid, and maggots started forming inside of it. It was so bad that he didn't know until he was transporting a DUI, and the person threw up in the back, and he's like, "What the fuck, man?" And they're like, "Dude, your car smells so bad. I can't." I'm like, it's not like motion sickness. It's like I'm sick because I'm drunk, and and so he finally inspected his car, and it's found this maggot-filled cat food. So that turned
nasty.
into a whole set of repercussions of counter pranks on the other guy's car. It was bad. So yeah, those are the good old days. Nowadays, somebody would file some sort of like an HR complaint against the other officer for pranks.
It's coming from actual officers now,
Yeah.
which I can't stand. Like, it used to be, especially I'm talking about my agency in particular. It felt like a family. So my dad, like, they used to do like community, like little events with each other, on the weekends. Everyone would get together.
Oh, like football or something, or
football or pool parties, barbecues, whatever it was. But it felt like a family. Now it's gone.
Yeah.
Everyone's just out for themselves. It's all self-serving, and
Well,
I just
then
can't. The complaints against other officers. It's like you can't just go talk to this guy that you're having a problem with. You're filing a complaint against him.
Well, then you have the social media problem. Somebody might take a picture of everybody at the pool, and then somebody gets butthurt because, I didn't get the phone call. Why didn't I get and then they start treating them like shit or complaining to sergeants about other things the officer's doing that you would have like let slide on the road. But now they're complaining because, I didn't get invited to that, bar night or that pool party or whatever. And it's just emotional intelligence sometimes becomes so low. And so poor.
Well, even it goes with these trainees now too. Like when I was, growing up through training, it was just like it's kind of like the movies. You get treated like crap. When you're on training. Yeah. You sit in the car while your FTO goes and eats. Yeah. Like that was always a thing. Like, and I liked that on training because I'm like, okay, it's my break from my FTO. Like, we had a trainee file a complaint because he said he wasn't able to go eat with his training officer, and they're like, are you doing that? Are you not letting? I'm like, no, I give them the freedom. I say, this is your free time. Use it.
Yeah.
I'm like, who wouldn't want that on training?
Yeah.
But it's just.
Yeah, because like, especially nowadays where we're so like, if we don't get to look at our phone for the like 5 minutes, we're like fiending or something like that. So it's like, I see that when my buddy does that, his trainees will sit in the car and it's like, their phone comes out and it's like, all right. And it's like, all right, cool, dude. Like then as long as your phone's not out while you're out learning and on calls and stuff like that, like, cool. If you want to stay in the car during lunch while we're sitting in there eating lunch, by all means. If you eat healthy and you pack your own lunch and you bring it in the car and you're going to eat like that, by all means, cool. You don't want to eat the fried food that we want to eat while we're on lunch because we're old guys. Like, cool. Like, that's your thing. But, just use it then. But also don't complain. You've been invited. You have every opportunity. You can come in and you can drink coffee with us in the morning when we sit down to drink coffee. But if you don't want to and you want to sit in the car, sit in the car. Yeah. But if you hear something on the radio, you better be piping up, or you better be, calling us or showing up. Like if something happens inside the coffee shop, like, you better be running inside. Don't be sitting in the car during the whole time when we're over here wrestling with somebody, so that kind of thing.
The complaining culture just kills me.
Yeah.
It's like, just suck it up. We've all been through it.
Yeah.
We've all done this.
Yeah.
But for some reason, this newer generation, they think they're entitled to something.
All right, well, let's take another quick break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about your political aspirations, your political career, and we'll be right back. What's in the cup? Guys, what's in my cup? Blackout Coffee Company. We joined up with them. I've been drinking it and I enjoy it, and I think you may enjoy it as well. So you can go over to our website and click the link, or you can just go to their website, blackoutcoffee.com, and use our coupon code to get 10% off. The code is DSP10. So go over, check it out.
So that's why I built InkMD, to address a niche, a very real need for medical grade wound care for real wounds. Tattoos are real wounds. I don't understand why we continue to treat them differently. There's just nobody's bridged that gap yet. We're talking about relatively superficial trauma to the skin. The quicker it heals, the better. especially with tattoos, because the amount of ink that's retained in your skin is dependent on that healing process. Real science, real medicine, with a very ancient and very personal art form.
Jump over inkmd.com and use DSP15 when you want to make a purchase. And all right, so we had a little interruption by the VP of Dunkin' Donuts South or Florida or something like that. So
new sponsorship opportunity.
yeah, hey, yeah, hopefully that'd be awesome. I'd be all about it. And then maybe I'd stop having to use fake donuts. But all right, so there was one story that we left off with, or we didn't get to hear. So tell me about finger biting off story or something like that before we get into politics.
So in LA, any call with the bus is usually terrible because buses don't transport the best of our society.
Yeah, they're usually full of people.
So this trainee I have, and he was actually a trainee from another agency. He had about 10 years on. So we were just working as partners essentially, and it was pretty cool. It was super relaxed. But we're out just dealing with this guy. Bus comes pulling up to the curb, and I'm like, okay, here we go. Bus driver runs off. Hey, we need your help. This guy's attacking everybody on the bus. I'm like, all right. Well, he comes walking right off, and he's about 6'8", and you could just tell he's tweaked out, just covered in sweat.
Yeah.
The eyes are just gone. I'm like, all right. I'm like, hey, just get him cuffed right away. Like, let's just get him cuffed and try to calm this down. So he grabs his arms. He's compliant at first, puts his arms behind his back, and then right when the cuffs come out, arms start flailing. So I'm wearing the black like latex gloves, and we're trying to shove this guy to the ground now. So my hand goes across his face because it's so slippery, and he bites down on my hand and gets my index finger. And he's just biting down on it. I'm like, oh man, he's biting me. So now we're both just wailing on this guy. And it got to a point, I'm like, we're gonna end up killing this guy because it's excited delirium. He's just tweaked out. He's not feeling anything because we're both just going to town on him.
Yeah.
And I ended up breaking my hand during it. It was a mess. But we finally get him cuffed and everything. And I pull my glove off. My finger's barely hanging on. It's just pouring blood.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh, I can't believe I got bit. Like,
Yeah.
that's like the worst thing. I'm like, this.
Yeah. Mouths are disgusting. Yeah.
This is disgusting.
Yeah.
But it was terrible.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's probably the worst injury I've had because I'm like, someone actually bit me.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
But, good old California, he sits in county jail for a year. We go to a trial on it. He wants a full jury trial.
Yeah.
They find him guilty and then let him walk out of the courtroom. They
He's
say,
guilty.
time served.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is insane.
So did you, like you said, it was hanging off? Like, is that an exaggeration, or was it like, did he detach the bone?
It
or the
didn't
bone?
detach it all the way, but most of the flesh had to get sewed back on.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah,
spent
some
a long time
cosmetic.
cleaning it out.
Oh, it's disgusting, and that's how you can get all kinds of diseases aside from the major ones. You can get sepsis. You can get
All sorts of nasty stuff.
Oh,
And I think that's what people don't get about law enforcement. They see, we're arresting bad guys, but like the homeless and these people that have just nasty medical
they haven't
issues.
trained you to call them unhoused or
we called them transients, but they wanted to start going to unhoused.
unhoused. Yeah. My wife's even had to start doing that because of the hospital, because her hospital is like the county hospital, so it's everybody,
Yes.
and so she's used that phrase a couple times, and I'm like, you mean a homeless person? Or a hobo or a bum?
Yeah.
Like, so like I was calling them hobos, but then a friend corrected me and was like, yeah, but hobos usually have a stick and a bandana
Yes.
and are usually jumping on trains and they're out of your area. These guys are bums, right? And I was like, yeah, you're right. They're bums, because that's basically what my job has turned into now, pushing bums around. And all I mean is by pushing them, like moving them to another area,
Yes.
because we have no real resources to do anything for
I
them.
feel like that's every agency now. You just move it. Hey, cross this border, get to the next city,
Yeah.
so we don't have to deal with
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Yeah. It used to be called the Hobo Express, and instead of a train car, it was usually our police cars, which meant we were dropping them off in another city and telling them to lay low for a little while. And one guy got hoboed all the way across Broward County one time.
Wow.
And we were like, oh, dude, we saw you on the east side of the city. How are you on the west side of the city now?
I don't know if this story is true, but it was always like passed down for a long time in
Yeah.
California. And I don't know what agency it was, but they had a frequent flyer homeless
Yeah.
guy that they were always dealing with, always causing issues every day. So a bunch of them pulled money together and like, hey, we're going to send this guy to Hawaii.
Yeah.
We're going to buy him a plane ticket
Yeah,
and
yeah.
send him. So they sent him on a plane to Hawaii.
Wow.
And he got there, started being a nuisance in Hawaii. And they're like, where did you come from? And then they dimed him out. Oh, the police bought me a ticket. And I was like, man, if that is true, that's a great one.
I mean, we've definitely paid for people to get into a taxi cab, to get out of the area and like tell the taxi cab. Like I was saying this 2 days ago in the morning, because an Uber driver had to come up to this girl who was just losing her mind on a domestic. And it's like, she's like, I'm going back to my dad's house. And we're like, okay, cool. You called an Uber? Cool. And I was like, God, the taxi cab drivers or Uber drivers that pull up, not knowing where they're going, and see 4 police cars and watch the police officers go. Like, what's that feeling like?
Oh, it's got to be the worst. Like, who am I picking up right now?
Especially Uber, because it's like most times this is my car you're getting into with whatever freakdom is wrong with you that caused 4 police officers to be at this house you're at. Crazy stuff, dude. Crazy stuff. All right, but yeah, I know we could talk about cop stuff forever, but let's talk about your political aspirations, or kind of like what's this next phase?
Yeah, so politics, I've always been interested in politics from a young age, and being in California is like there's no shot. My politics are night and day from California politics. And while I was working in law enforcement, the agency I worked for provided tuition reimbursement so you could go on to college. I'm like, oh, this is cool. And I'm going to use this. I'll get my master's.
Yeah.
And now I'm working on completing my doctorate.
Oh, wow.
All off of being able to use that nice benefit. But it was all political driven. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like, I'm really interested in this. And then really it was when I found my relationship with Christ, where I'm like, you know what? There needs to be a change in this country. We're headed down a bad direction. We were started off as a Christian nation, but somehow that's just kind of gone to the side.
Yeah.
So my big thing has been faith, family, freedom. I want to reclaim those for not only Texas, because Texas has it. Now it's just protecting it, because the left wants to take that away. So I think he was my training officer a long time ago, told me, hey, don't complain about something unless you're willing to step up and fix it.
Totally.
So I've always taken that to heart. And I'm like, yeah, I see a lot of problems and things I want to protect, especially here in Texas. So I'm going to throw my name in the hat because I have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
So that's what really drove me. Is like, hey, I want to bring this back to a Christian nation again, restore these values and protect them from the left who's trying to destroy them.
Yeah. And it's good to have people that's their motivation, or that the betterment of society is their motivation. It's not the motivation it's like, oh, I can be a millionaire if I'm a senator for, 10 years or, 2 terms or something like that. I can get free health care and I can be a millionaire, whatever. Like they actually have you want to see people that have good ideas, are well grounded into their communities and just want to continue to make this nation great. I'm not trying to mention a red hat or anything like that. It's just, but the mentality behind that is correct. We want America to continue to be great.
And we need working class people to step up for these positions.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it, they're, career lawyers, or they've,
aristocrats type people.
They're not connected with what's going on. So it's the same thing with police departments. The upper level that's pushing out policies, same thing with the government.
Yeah.
These people are disconnected from how these policies actually affect the people.
Yeah.
And that's why I bring a kind of a fresh, good perspective to Texas. Is like, look, I worked under these radical leftist policies. I know exactly what they do.
Yeah.
I know exactly how we could fight back against them, because that's what they're trying to bring here.
Yeah. And that's like I said at the beginning of this podcast, so you're not gonna California or Texas kind of thing. And I say I'm not in Texas, but yes. That's gonna be the sentiment for sure. So like, how does somebody really get started with that? Like, you're shooting for one of the top rings there. You're not like, I'm going to run for city council. Like you're like, I'm going Senate, and you're not talking state Senate. You're talking U.S. Senate, Washington, D.C. There's only 100 of those guys.
Yes.
So
part of the reason I was like, you know what, I'm going to go for Senate, because I don't want to start low level and then, politics corrupt a lot of people. And if you start at those low levels and you start working your way up, you're going to start owing people favors. You're going to start, who's your donors, these big money people, what are you going to owe them?
Yeah.
And I don't want any of that. So like, I was like, you know what? I'm not corrupted. Why don't I shoot for this, see what happens? Because I don't ever want to owe anyone anything. And that's what's wrong with politics. And that's what I'm huge on term limits. I think we need term limits so these people could go in for the right reason, do their 6 to 12 years and get out.
Yeah.
Because these people stay in way too long and it's all about money for them.
Yeah.
But the sad thing is, as I've started exploring this and doing this run, is how much money it takes for these campaigns.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
It should not take $10 million just to run a primary, just to get to the general election.
Yeah, just to get to a general election.
And it's all about the money.
Yeah.
It's crazy because money buys you name recognition, buys you the ads, buys you
the signs, the posters, the workers, the people that are beating the drums everywhere that you can't be.
Exactly.
Because I was on the FOP, or I've been a member of our FOP, and we've done local elections for our city a lot, and then I've even sat for our district boards when we've interviewed other candidates throughout the county and even for the state. And it's just amazing how hard it is to get your name out for that kind of thing. So, it's cool to have podcasts and you open-minded to be able to jump on these podcasts, even over here in Florida, to get your name out. And even if it's not for you, I think it's good for the message of explaining to people like that you need to watch out for these career politicians. You need to watch out for these people that are in it for the wrong reasons. The devil is in them, kind of thing, for what they're doing. And I told you before, or when we were off air, like you want those people that just have that calling and feel the need that they need to do this, not because they want to, or I've dreamed of being a U.S. Senator since I was a child.
Exactly.
And I went on a field trip in 5th grade and I always want to be a senator. No, we don't want that person, because you've bred yourself to try and be that. Like you said, somebody grassroots, somebody that's worked a whole nother job, that's done something completely different.
We just need real people.
Yeah.
And you said it perfectly. Like, my whole job has been public service. Now I just want to serve in another capacity. Mm-hmm. And we've started seeing some of that with these, veterans.
Yeah.
We have like Rep. Eli Crane. We have Rep. Morgan Luttrell from Texas. And they've been doing some great things. And it's because they have that real world experience.
Right.
They weren't, their aspiration wasn't to run for political office. They wanted to serve their country, and they saw what was going wrong. And they're like, you know what, if I could take that service and now move it into another area, I'm going to do it. And that's who we need. We need people doing it for the right reason.
Totally. Yeah. And we really do. And I was kind of going to mention that back when we were talking about law enforcement and what drove you into it, aside from family. And is a lot of us have that interest in serving the community, that service to be, done forward. And I was always involved in that through high school and the Boy Scouts growing up, all that kind of stuff. It was always service oriented towards the community, and looking up, and my role models were always my scout leaders who were all prior military or currently or law enforcement at the time. In high school, JROTC, my Army instructors, and stuff, people that serve their communities, through that governmental service, and then.
Yeah, and that's really where my faith component took place with this run too. Is, I always knew I was serving the community and I wanted to serve people, but I don't think I was serving for the right reason, because ultimately, Jesus calls us to serve others. Mm-hmm. We're supposed to go out and serve, and this is another way we could do that. By being in political office, we could serve the people for the greater good, and it's going to take a lot of work. There's a lot of cleaning up that needs to take place. Yeah.
And there's a lot of work just for you to even get there, which is admirable. What are some things that you knew about with Texas? Because as a representative for Texas, you're not representing the United States, you're representing Texas. Correct. And you're representing the mentality or the needs of Texans in the U.S. Senate or in Congress. What are some things that you see through Texas that need to be addressed or that Texas wants?
Well, one of the biggest things on the federal level, we want the federal government to adhere to the 10th Amendment, give the states their rights. The federal government, way too long, it's grown into this huge, massive thing that just encompasses everything pretty much.
Yeah.
Where a lot of these things are supposed to be state issues. So
Right.
we got to get it back to just letting states operate how they want. If you want to operate crazily like California, go ahead. And we're going to see what happens. People are going to leave because they don't want it. But Texas, especially, what I've noticed is we have a huge rise in the Islamic population. And there's even a city called Epic City that they're trying to build. It goes back and forth if they're getting it shut down or not. But the gist of it is, it was a Muslim-only community right in Plano, Texas. And now we see the New York City mayor, good shot, he's going to be a Muslim. It's a huge issue, which people, I don't know how people have forgotten what, Islam is responsible for over these years.
Yeah.
But their whole goal is to conquer every nation they enter. So they start out low, and it's like you said with these elections, they start low level. They start locally, school boards, city councils work their way up. Now we have a Muslim mayor in Texas. And their goal's not for America. Their goal is not for what state they're in. They're using that as their platform to eventually take over. So that's a huge problem that we're going to have to find a way to kind of shut down.
Okay.
The other huge issue is China owns a ton of farmland in
Yeah.
Texas.
Oh, wow.
And our governor just signed something outlining the purchase of farmland, but we need to take that farmland back. A lot of it's near military bases, which
Right.
it's strategic. There's
Yeah, yeah.
there's no, it's not a coincidence why that's happening.
Yeah, we've seen that in things, even in just how easy it was with the Ukraine-Russia war for Ukraine to get trucks moving through Russia right next to a military base to launch drones. Not that I'm defending Russia or whatever. I'm just pointing out, when you've got areas that basically become almost foreign-owned territory
Yes.
around military bases, they can, it's their land. That's part of America. You have freedom to do on your land what you want to do, and you have the ability to hold guns against anybody that comes and wants to stop that.
Yes.
So if you're setting up listening devices, towers, watching devices to be able to monitor comings and goings of military stuff, yeah, there's a lot of freedom in America and stuff, but there's a lot of things that Americans don't do. They're not sitting there monitoring, putting out to foreign agencies or foreign intelligence movements and stuff. We're trying not to,
Yes.
and those people get brought up on charges for espionage.
Yeah.
So if we're letting the actual government of theoretically, maybe not formally, one of our enemies build and be part of almost our military structure, then we're destined for doom.
It's crazy to me because you cannot go to another country and go buy land. I can't even go to Mexico and buy, I could buy a house, but I don't own the land. The government could come in and take it whenever they want.
Yeah.
So why are we letting foreign nations, especially our adversaries, come here
Yeah.
and purchase land? It makes no sense.
It's
They
crazy.
need to use eminent domain, take that land back. And I'm all about America first. Like, we need to take care of our country, our people first. I don't
Yeah.
know where we got away from that. Yes, it's great to want to be the savior of the world.
Yeah.
But take care of our own first.
Yeah.
Like, our national debt is insane, which luckily President Trump was addressing that with Doge.
Yeah.
And we see the travesty of where all of our tax dollars have been going for all these years.
Crazy stuff, man.
But just get back to taking care of your people first. Like, that's what it matters. Like, look at our veterans. We could take care of them so much better.
Yeah.
But no, we're sending billions overseas to fund a war that we're not even part of.
Right. Yeah, there's just some crazy stuff, and there's been a lot of good change that we've seen over the last, whatever it is, 150 days, or time, and time will tell. But for Texas, like, what about this border stuff? I think with Texas, what I've heard is there's been a huge drop in border incursions in Texas.
Huge.
Since some of this, the ICE stuff, the uptick of border patrol support for border patrol,
Yes.
and then as well the mobilization of National Guard, right?
Yes.
I think the use of National Guard at the border to assist, and then just anyone coming knowing, hey, we're not just going to walk across freely and be sent on our way, right?
That was a huge problem. I don't know how anyone in their right mind would think, like, open borders is great, just let all these people come
Yeah.
in. I get people that want to come legally because we are the greatest country in the world. By all means, come, but do it the legal way.
Yeah.
Like, we're more than welcome to welcome you into this country if you come here legally. But all these people coming across, and not even to mention like all the drugs coming across these borders. That's why we really need to solidify the border. If it's a wall, whatever it's going to be, in drone operations along it all the time. Because even the cartels, they use drones all the time to drop packages over the border.
Yeah.
It's been a known thing for years.
And then it's just crazy too, the human trafficking. The human side of it is terrible, with the indentured servitude, that people are having to swear their lives to these cartels and stuff, and they're getting brought across. And then, they're taking their kids, or they're sending their kids over. And then the child effect on what these children are getting, how they're getting abused and used crossing the border, as almost like placeholders for other individuals. Like that, there's just some crazy stuff that's coming out right now that, believe what you want. But I mean, I don't think people are just full blown making up these stories, and it's sickening to try to read and try to follow some of this stuff. And so the root problem, to roll back to what we were talking about, the war on drugs or drugs, the way to stop other ancillary crimes is to not legalize all these drugs or make them decriminalized. The same thing goes towards the border. If we close up, or at least shore up the way that people come to the border, cross the border, all those kind of things, then you can prevent some of these other crimes, the drugs, the human smuggling, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
support.
They're
for
all
the
hand in hand. The human trafficking goes hand in hand with the drugs. It's all interconnected.
Yeah.
So if you could shut that down, it would make a huge dent in it.
Yeah.
And especially like in California, it was a main expressway between coke and meth would usually come out of Mexico, work its way up to Canada, and then Canadians' weed would come back down into California and into Mexico. So it's kind of like a trade.
Interesting.
So people don't think about the Canadian border either, but the cartels are using that too. And they think just Mexico is involved. It's like, no, China's heavily involved. They're getting tons of
fentanyl
stuff
through there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's all coming in through Mexico.
Yeah.
And so people don't realize how many nations are interconnected with these drug networks.
Yeah.
And then it all comes through the border.
Yeah. Yeah. Freaking crazy, because I know I was in Canada in March, and I was in a big city in Calgary, and just walking around, and I saw it recently on Instagram, the hashtag for it. It was called the fentanyl fold, and it's when somebody is basically bent over at the hip, and they're almost like on a full traction where they're bent over, and they're just sitting there just on their phone or whatever. And my wife even asked me, she's like, "Do you think it's something that feels good?" I'm like, honestly, I don't freaking know. I don't understand the stuff, but we saw it a lot when we were walking around Calgary, because they were just walking around doing it, and like they were in a bus stop just doing it, and like Canada just doesn't care, and they're just like, yeah, let it happen, yeah, free, whatever, do. And it's like, yo, this is destroying people. Like, weed is one thing in my opinion, but it's like all these hard drugs are just, they do some nasty stuff to these people out there.
And it's the entire West Coast. You'll see that in Seattle, Portland, LA, San Francisco.
Yeah.
Because they just let it go. They don't get these people help. And that's the thing. Fentanyl, that kills people.
Yeah.
Any of these opiates, that's going to end up killing them. They're going to end up ODing one day. And like the same thing, we all carry Narcan on us now. And you use it on these people, and they're up, and they just go on to get their next fix.
Yeah.
It's like, I
it's
saved you so you could go do this again and be in the same position.
Yeah, and now I got to go fill out a form to get 2 more cans of it. And, more paperwork for me, yay! But yeah, it is the Narcan on reaction is amazing, but I wish we were using it to save people that were having accidental overdoses or unintentional accidental overdoses. Yes. Not so much somebody that's just allowing themselves to screw up their lives.
Yes, and it just goes back to like, what are we doing to actually help these people?
Yeah.
Decriminalizing is not helping them.
Yeah.
You're just leading them into further addiction.
Yeah. All right, cool, man. I don't know. Like, what else? Like, what? I mean, we're coming up close. I think the district or whatever VP or whatever is out there. I think they're trying to use this room. So what? How can somebody in Texas or wherever support your campaign? Where can they see you? Like, what are you guys doing?
So they could go to duncanforsenate.com.
Okay.
I have most of my stuff up on there, and I'll even put this podcast up on there once it's on YouTube.
Sweet, yeah.
And then I have a heavy presence on X. So Alex Duncan TX on
Okay.
X. That's where I'm posting daily. People could ask me questions. I'll respond to everyone usually.
Cool.
So that's probably the biggest thing. If you want to connect, you want an answer to a policy position I may have, find me on X and I'll
Yeah, I
answer
mean,
it.
because we did a lot of background talking, and I kind of wanted to establish you for people so they kind of know you're a person and you're not just some suit walking in here, spitting rhetoric and everything like that. So, and as we said, that's your research is something that it should be up to everybody to do. And I think that's like you're giving them a challenge to challenge me, talk to me about it.
Exactly.
You can talk to you freely on X. Elon's made it so it's freedom of speech on X.
And I enjoy hearing other people's opinions.
Yeah.
Like I'm not one of these people that's what I cannot stand with politics right now. There's no discourse. It
Yeah.
used to be you had the right and left. They would disagree, but they weren't hating each other. They just had different opinions on how to get something done.
Yeah.
But they kind of all wanted the same objective in the end. Now it's just complete polar opposites.
Yeah.
And there is none of that. Like if you think this way, I'm going to hate you. If you think this way, I'm going to hate you. It's like it shouldn't be like that. It should be open dialogue. Hopefully we all want the best for this country, and let's work on a way to get it back to what it was before.
Awesome, I like it. All right, well, I'll throw all that stuff in the description on the audio side and the video side, and then we'll support you and be interested in seeing you, and then
Awesome.
maybe you can come down here with your entourage in the future when with some private security and stuff like
Yeah, there
that,
you go.
and do another Donut Shop podcast episode with a real senator for the United States. So that'll be cool, man. So well, thank you very much for coming out, and let's go get some lunch. So we'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks.
Calling all units, calling all units. Donut Shop has a fresh dozen. Go ahead and take a 1040.